At the end of this video, I'm going to come out of the closet. That's right, I'm coming out of the closet. You can't stop me, world. I'm coming out. Ooh, ooh, I want the YouTube to know. Got to let it show. Okay, none of you thought I was that straight. Let's be honest. You are probably familiar with the array of sexual orientations that comprise the LGBTQIA+ list. But even if you are in one of the LGBTQIA++ communities, you may not know about some of these other lesser known sexual orientations out there. You know, we like to think of sexual orientation sort of like the sorting hat in Harry Potter. Like, you reach the hallowed age of adolescence, you put on the sorting hat, and it declares, you are straight, you are gay, you with the black nail polish, you are definitely bi-curious. Even if you grew up in a super progressive household, you may still have the idea that sex is either gay or straight or bi, and that's about it, right? Wrong, and I'm here to tell you why. Hi, I'm Caitlin V, and I am a sex and relationship coach. My job is to help people become their best, most empowered selves in the bedroom. I help people of all orientations navigate and overcome their sexual problems. Follow me on Instagram for more recipes. In this video, I'm talking about the numerous sexual orientations out there that you may have never heard of, but might answer some of the questions that you have about yourself. In fact, maybe your sexual orientation is one that you have literally never heard of before. But Caitlin, you say, how can that be? I am straight. Well, yes, you are straight, but chances are that you're not just straight. Like, how can a single word describe something as complex as your attraction or your desire to mount and hump and make wacky O faces with? I mean, you can be straight and also have one or more of these sexual orientations. You can be straight and demisexual. You can be straight and sapiosexual. So hold on to your butts and throw out everything you've ever heard before, because whatever sexual orientation you thought you were, we're gonna put on ice for now. So I grew up in, I would consider, the most normal Midwestern situation, conservative-ish family, and the only option I was ever aware of was straight. Now, when I was in high school, I did come out as bisexual, and I have come out as pansexual since then, many times, both here and on Instagram. And maybe you're like me, and after you grew up a little bit more, became more curious and mature and gained some self-awareness, you realize that you can be attracted to a whole lot of people, sometimes without regard to their gender or their sexual orientation. I mean, maybe you find yourself only sexually and romantically attracted to ice fishermen in Wisconsin. Or maybe you're attracted to Poe from Star Wars, Butcher from The Boys, and Don from Lost in Space, and now you're realizing that you definitely have a type. Or maybe you thought you were always straight, but you also find yourself attracted from time to time to someone of the same gender because of the way that they look with the campfire light and how well they play the ukulele, and you start thinking, shit, does this mean that I need to buy my wife a ukulele? Well, maybe you do, but before you take that step, let's break this down. First of all, why are we talking about sexual orientations? Do we need to put a label on everything? Look, if you don't want to put a label on your sexuality, that's fine. In fact, I encourage you not to. In fact, I encourage you to just drop all labels and just be. There is something so powerful and beautiful to that, you know, and you don't have to worry about falling into a category. You just love who you love and you bone who you bone. But please do not let that sentiment close you off from learning more about these lesser known sexual orientations. So when I learned that there was a word and there were other people who had the same sexual orientation as me, the more specific orientation that I'm going to reveal at the end of this video, I was relieved. Like, you don't know what you don't know. And once you do know, you can become empowered to explore. Or at the very least, you can realize that that's why you popped a boner when your wife beat you at croquet, or why you only feel sexually attracted to someone after you've seen the books in their bookcase, got their mom's maiden name and their social security number. At the end of the day, all that matters is that you get to have great sex. I'm just here to help you do it. So without further ado, let me introduce you to 12 of the lesser known sexual orientations. And remember, this is not an exhaustive list. I prefer to think that there are as many sexual orientations as there are people currently sexing. All right, number 1 of 12, asexual. Asexual people have little to no sexual attraction for others. They may have a libido that they satisfy through masturbation, but otherwise sexual relationships are not desirable or super important to them. So if you don't really care about having sex with others, or you find yourself not being attracted to others in that way, you may be asexual. You may also be attracted to others for romance, or you may be romantically attracted to people of the same gender or people of a different gender. So you may identify as hetero, romantic, but asexual. Isn't that just so cool? There's so many layers. Number 2 is aromantic. Aromantic people may have a place for sex in their lives, and they may experience sexual attraction towards others, likely do, but they do not have romantic attraction. So they do not want romance in addition to sex. If you are aromantic, you can tell your lovers to leave the rose petals at home and do your thing. Number 3 is pansexual. Pansexual is someone who experiences sexual or romantic attraction to people regardless of their gender, sexuality, or identity. So I mentioned when I was in high school, I came out as bisexual, but the prefix bi suggests 2, like binary 1 and 0, bi, male and female. Well, I happen to be attracted to people who fall outside of that gender binary, and people who are androgynous, and people who just don't really fit within that paradigm. And so I really, really love the word pansexual. But more recently, a lot of people and scholars and folks who know more about this than I do have suggested that the term bisexual really does include the term pansexual. And so I'm good with it. I like pan, it makes me feel special, but I guess I'm bi as well. And I certainly love living within that umbrella. All right, number 4 is polysexual. Polysexuality is a lot like pansexual. It's sort of like a create your own adventure, I've seen it described as, and it's just being attracted to people of varying genders, sexualities, and identities. Your sexuality feels very individualized and personal to you. So you may be attracted to masculine presenting people of all genders or any gender, or you might be attracted to all genders except for cis men or cis women, and that's awesome too. Number 5 in our list is the Q in LGBTQIA, and that is the term queer. Queer is an umbrella term and a reclaimed word for people who are not specifically heterosexual. So if you're not super straight, you may be a little bit queer. Welcome to the party. Grab a cookie and some rainbow frosting and do what you will. Number 6, questioning. Sometimes the other Q in LGBTQIA, questioning acknowledges the process of being curious, the adventure of exploring. No matter what your sexual orientation is, even if you live and die by being straight, you may from time to time ask some questions and want to get to know yourself better. I think questioning just means that you are leaving an open mind to your experience and not shutting yourself off or thinking that you are any one thing, because you, my friend, are infinite. All right, number 7, sapiosexual. This term has gotten a lot more news recently, so you may have seen it. All it means is that you are sexually attracted to intelligence. What it means is that, you look for someone who can play Chopin or dissect political theory, making it sound like a beautiful symphony, or maybe they have the emotional intelligence of a Bronte novel. The sapiosexual needs to see the bookshelf. So if you are attracted by the intellectual depth of your favorite professor or perhaps your favorite YouTuber, you might be sapiosexual. You may also want to make sure that you are subscribed. Number 8. Why is 8 always the hardest one? 8. 8 is Scoliosexual, and it simply means that you are attracted to people who are not cisgender. Cisgender, sort of the opposite of transgender, it just means people who were assigned the gender and sex at birth that they later came to identify with. Boom. Number 9, Pomosexual. I love this one. Pomo stands for postmodern, and Pomosexuals are the label rejectors. So if you're sitting here watching this video saying, why put a label on it? Then you may be Pomosexual, not to put a label on you or anything. Number 10, Demisexual. When you rarely feel attracted to like any all human walking down the street, like you are not about to fall in love with a random stranger on the bus, but once you get to establish an emotional connection, then yeah, you get kind of turned on. That might be you. Or for example, like you're not lusting after Butcher in season 1 of The Boys, but then you get to the spoiler alert point of season 2 where he's phoning Becca in the back of the Subaru. If you're demisexual, you only experience sexual attraction after a close emotional bond has formed. Pen pals, beware. Number 11, Graysexual. Graysexual does not mean that you are into people who are gray. There's literally nothing wrong with that. I'm sure there's also a term for that. What it does mean is that you experience sexual attraction very rarely and with low intensity. Now, there is some debate as to whether gray sexuality fits under the asexuality or the demisexuality umbrella, because asexual people, as we discussed, experience little to no sexual attraction. So if you're graysexual or demisexual or asexual, you may or may not have a high libido, but sex with a partner probably isn't super important to you all or most of the time. See? We're complicated. And you may experience other forms of attraction, platonic, emotional attraction, romantic attraction, but you're not usually going to jump someone's bones and start riding away. Number 12, allosexual. Behold, the opposite of asexual. Being allosexual simply means that you experience sexual attraction for others. So if you're straight, but your best friend is gay, your brother is pansexual, and your roommate is demisexual, guess what? You are all allosexual. So now that we've had a rundown of some of the lesser known sexual orientations, how do you know how you identify? Well, maybe you've heard some of these terms and you were listening and you went, oh my God, that's me, that's it, that's me, I get it. But don't worry if that didn't happen. All that means is that you are a complicated human being. And side note, I don't mean complicated as in bad. We're all complicated human beings. I'll be the first to say I'm a complicated human being. I have like a 3-point sexual orientation. I have sort of anxious attachment style. I identify as a shapeshifter in the blueprints. I am complicated, and I love that about me. I love being complicated because it gives me so much to play with. Okay, if you're not sure what your sexual orientation, what can you do about that? Number 1, foster an awareness of yourself. Become self-aware. Whenever you feel yourself being pulled towards somebody or something that you find attractive, no matter what your relationship status or your perceived orientation is, just be aware of your attraction. Pause in that moment and recognize that you are experiencing attraction in that moment for a person. Don't judge yourself. You don't have to judge yourself. You also don't have to jump on a label and go through, oh my God, what was that list that Caitlin gave? Which one is it? Is this Demi? Am I demisexual? Is it Scolio? No, I think it's Sapio. No need to judge yourself. Again, labels are just useful for us in describing ourselves with others. They may or may not be useful for you at any given moment. And number 2, notice your attraction patterns. You'll start to see patterns like really attractive men with dark hair and like scruffy beards that also are like hell-bent on saving the world, but also they're like a little shamelessly sexual. I don't know. Where were we? Anyway, sexual patterns, attraction and desire, they sort of come in a pattern, and so you may experience the same sort of pull over and over again. And again, that's amazing. instead of feeling down or feeling weird or wondering if you're bisexual and pansexual and what does it mean, understand that our attraction to people and our sexual desire for other people or lack thereof is just one ingredient in the amazing 5-course meal that is you and your relationships. It doesn't necessarily mean anything about you, and that's awesome. Enjoy that attraction. I personally believe that attraction and arousal are like the spice of life. So dive in and enjoy it. And side note, understand that your sexual orientation is 100% going to change over the course of your life. Like what your sexual appetite is and what you're interested in is going to change. So allow yourself to change. And once you recognize that you have changed, try using porn or fantasies or role playing with your partner, your spouse, or maybe connect with and talk to people who you are attracted to and explore your attraction. I just realized I'm not wearing my own pants. These are my friend's pants. For those of you who stayed until the very end of the video to learn what my orientation is and how I am coming out today, well, there's a couple things that you may already know about me. Number one, I am married, ka-ching, to a man. So it may look on paper like I am in a heterosexual relationship, but if you've seen my videos before, you probably also know that we are in a consensually non-monogamous relationship, and you already know that I'm pansexual, but what you didn't know, because I've never said it publicly before, is that I also identify as Fraysexual. Fraysexual is a newer term, and it describes someone who experiences sexual attraction towards those that they're not deeply emotionally connected with, and we lose that attraction the more that we get to know a person. It's sort of the opposite of demisexual. So more attraction when you don't know someone, less attracted when you do. And it took me a long time to really realize this. I thought I was just a weirdo. And I don't say that to hurt anybody's feelings or put anyone down. I thought I was a weirdo until I realized that this actually is a term and a community and an orientation, and there are other people like me who feel hella attraction for new folks and strangers, but less so when deep emotional connections start to be developed. All right, take a minute and write in the comments below which sexual orientation of these do you identify with, or which ones did I miss, because there are so many out there. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you learned something more about yourself, and at minimum, you definitely learned something more about me, and I will see you here next week. Mwah!